Hey guys, I'm Sarah and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a series review, and that series I'm reviewing is the Dragons of Starlight series by Bryan Davis. This is a Christian fantasy series. It has magic in it. I actually mentioned it in my Christian fantasy with magic video. I will leave a link to that down below in case you're curious. Yeah, and I just recently finished the series and I wanted to put a review on my channel for the whole thing of. Mainly this is going to be like if you've seen one of my, if not my first fan series review, that was, what was it called? Oh, okay, blanked on the title for a minute. And that is King Arthur and Her Knights by K.M. Shia. I'll leave a link to that video down below too. I did kind of like a certain number of reasons why you should read the series, and that is how I'm going to do this one. It will not be like my Horse Angel one, which was kind of very long and all over the place. So this one's structured very differently. And basically, the basic concept for this series is Starlight is the first book. Basically, we follow these humans. A long time ago, dragons came to this particular planet of humans, and they stole. They basically kidnapped humans, took them back to their planet, and forced them to become their slaves. That was like hundreds of years ago. And now in present day, Jason Masters is a teenager. He is basically, he's like framed for something he didn't do. And then he decides, and he sees it as an opportunity to go to the dragon planet and try to free the slaves, or the lost ones as they're called, and along with his friends Alyssa and Randall. Then our other point of view is Corin. She is a slave on the dragon planet, and it is discovered she is a Starlighter, which is someone with magical abilities. Basically, when she tells stories, they come to life in like phantom-like images around her, and they can hypnotize people and the dragons. But her issue is there's also this black dragon egg that is prophesized to be the dragon's salvation and also be the human's doom. And it's talking to her. So basically hers and Jason's worlds collide, and it is the adventure of trying to free the slaves and thwart evil, and just a lot of different battles of good and evil. This is a 4-book series. It's young adult, and the first book is Starlighter. The second book is Warrior, and I've just got to say before I continue, what were they thinking with these cover redesigns? This is the old cover version. This is the new one. Like, what were they thinking with this? Like, why does he have posts for wings? It doesn't make sense. But anyways, I do not like these new covers, which is why they're library books. Anyways, Warrior's the second book. The third book is Diviner. And the fourth book is Liberator. And yes, it is just a really good series. This is one of the first Christian fantasy series I ever read. I read them back in 2015, except for Starlighter, because my library didn't have it at the time. I had to start from Warrior, which I don't recommend because it's very confusing, because they pretty much just dump you right in to what's going on after the end of this one, and I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just going with it. So yeah, highly recommend you read these in order. And yeah, because I read this one like a year later when the library actually bought a copy. So, whatever. But yeah, I have a very fond place in my heart for this series, and I'm really glad I reread them recently. There's also a adult companion series called Tales of Starlight, which is a trilogy. I will leave a link if I finish those books in a certain decent amount of time. I will probably do a review of them, and if so, I will leave a link to that video in the description when I have it. Currently at the point of when I'm filming it, I've only read the first 2 books because I do not own book 3 and my library doesn't have book 3, so I have to buy it in order to finish that series because it's a trilogy, which I want to do because I really enjoyed the first 2 books, but just don't know when I'll be able to do it, so there's that. If I do review it in the future, I will leave a link to that video down below. Okay, now into my reasons of why, for why you should read this series. I have 6 reasons, and number 1 is there are complex and flawed characters in this series who grow and change beautifully over the course of them. Like literally, these characters in Starlighter are not the same by the time they get to Liberator. It's like night and day transformation. I mean, they're the same people, but they've grown so much, and they've grown, they've changed, they've learned. This is for humans and dragons, because the dragons in this series talk, and they're very like, they're complex characters as well. They like have their own motivations and they change and stuff. Yes, I really, really enjoyed the complex changes of these characters, and just over the course of the series, how they just grow. My second reason is a blend of fantasy with sci-fi like qualities. What do I mean by that? This is very much a fantasy series, but there are like sci-fi elements to it, because there's like a whole thing, a whole part of the plot line. It's not really a spoiler because it's alluded to, well, it's alluded to in book 2. Anyways, the very minor spoiler is there's a disease, and they have to like come up with like this way to cure it. So they have to come up with a cure, and then there's like talk about genetically enhancing certain things with certain people and or creatures. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there's like that type of thing, so it's like a science-y element. There is also like there's of course the 2 different planets, so they mention like a solar system type thing, and they even show it in one character has painted a solar system on his wall, so there's like an actual pointing out that there's different planets. And there's portals. Portals I know can be in fantasy too, but these feel very more sci-fi-ish. So yeah, it has little scientific sci-fi elements throughout the series, but it's still very much fantasy. Yeah, my third point of why you should read this series, it has multiple point of views. If you are a type of person who likes multiple point of views in a story, this definitely has it. Our main points of views are Jason, Corin, Jason's friend Alyssa, and his other friend Randall. We do also get, throughout the series, you do also get a couple point of views from villains and antagonists in the story. You also get it from like some of the dragons and some other characters. So yeah, mainly in the first book, Starlighter, you basically just have Jason and Corin's point of view and Alyssa's. So basically in Warrior, they started adding more, the authors started adding more points of view, which I really like. I like multiple points of view in a book because it kind of expands the world and kind of expands what's going on. You can see different angles, but yes, pretty much there are multiple main characters, but I would say Jason and Corin are the 2 biggest ones, but there are also others. Alyssa definitely grows, Randall does as well, and all the other different characters. Also, I also want to add, if you've read the Ranger's Apprentice series, if you liked the dynamic between Horace and Will, Jason and Randall kind of have that dynamic too. I just realized that today, so I just thought I'd add that in there, that if you liked you've read Ranger's Apprentice and you like that dynamic, those 2 definitely have it's more mild because they're not around each other all the time, but it's definitely there. My fourth point, or just more like to convince you to read it, is there's like questions about like life and character qualities that they're not easy to like swallow or like wrap your head around, and they don't have easy answers, but it definitely makes you think. I guess this kind of goes into my 5th point too, of like weighty questions and thoughts that they don't take away from the story, but they do make you stop and think, but they don't take away from the adventure of it all. I don't know, I just really like the way Bryan Davis writes, because it's pretty much in all of his books. At least most of the ones I've read of his, which I think I've read most of his books by now, he has these questions of like faith and character qualities and just questions on life that he just puts in there, and they don't have easy answers. Some of them aren't even answered by the end. It's just more like, how would you answer it? It's like the characters have to come to their own conclusion about it, and then it also offers you the chance as the reader to come to your own conclusion on it. And I don't know, I just really like that, where it's just not like a cut and dried thing. Some of these things are kind of like, yeah, it's pretty much just this point, but you're also, the way he writes it, you're free to disagree and just, come up with your own solution, or just be like, I don't really quite agree with that part, but I do with this one. But if you're also looking for just a great adventure, it does that as well. And the weighty questions don't take away from the adventure, they add to it. Or, you know, so you can sit there and puzzle it out, or you can just take it as it is and move on and be happy with the adventure too. I just really like the dynamic between how he's able to do that. And since I kind of answered my 5th point, we'll go to the 6th one once I turn the page in my notebook. And that is the skillfully woven Christian messages and principles that are not preachy or shoved in your face. They're very much there. They're almost allegorical or symbolic in a way. It's definitely not, this series is definitely not an allegory, but it does have kind of those symbolism type qualities to it, and it's just, it shows faith, and it shows like principles of the Bible and faith and like courage and things that God has given us that, you know, it's just how should we use it for him. And it's just, Bryan Davis delivers it in a way that makes sense, and it's like, it's empowering, but it's not to the point of annoying, if you know what I mean. Or it's like, it's not shoved in your face like preachy. I did notice a few reviews on Goodreads said they felt it was preachy. I didn't, because he pretty much he basically writes the message, it's there, like the Christian message is clearly there, but it's also there organically, if you know my meaning by that. It's just, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like he's trying to push a message. It just feels like it's there. It's part of the story. It's part of this world. It's part of him. And he has written it, and it's there for you to see. And if you want to ignore it, you're free to, and you can still have a great adventure. So yes, I really love that about his writing. He's very good about doing that in all of his books. Or at least the ones I've read, which is quite a few at this point. I think pretty much the only ones I haven't read are his most recent ones. But yeah, I mean, he's written a lot of books. So yeah, those are my 6 main reasons of why I think you should read Dragons of Starlight. Also, I do want to add I would read this series along with Tales of Starlight if you can get the adult series too, because that's how I reread it this time. And I liked how the Tales of Starlight kind of expanded the world and what other characters were doing at the same time. So I thought it just enhanced these books more. But if you can only find this series is perfectly great on its own. Has a very happy ending, and just, well, it's mostly happy. I mean, people do die, but it's a satisfying happy ending. Let's put it that way. And yes, I really love this series. I'm very glad I reread them, and that's not the right order. Let's put them back in the right order. There we go. So yeah, I highly recommend this series. If you like Christian fantasy, if you like dragons, if you like adventure, high stakes, moral questions, and character questions that make you really think. If you like any or all of those things, I think you would really like this series. I just have a problem with these new covers, but that's a minor detail, I suppose. But yeah, definitely to buy the rest of the series, I'm definitely going to try to look for these covers because I don't like the new ones. Yeah, so that is my review. Let me know down below in the comments. Wow, I can talk, I promise. Let me know down below in the comments if you have read this series or any other of Bryan Davis's books, or if you've even heard of them. I'd love to know your thoughts, and if you are interested in reading them now from my review if you haven't before. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!